Hi friends. I'll be honest, I have seen videos before on this premise, the things I started doing that completely changed my style. And I always found them quite interesting, but I never thought I had similar things I could point to in my own style journey because style habits tend to evolve slowly over time. These things never feel like big life-changing shifts when you first start trying them out. But in hindsight, looking back at how my style and the way I get dressed every day have evolved over many years, I can see that certain behaviors I picked up along the way actually had a huge impact on how I dress every single day now. So today, I just want to share some of the things I started doing, often slowly over time, not even knowing the effect that they would have, that have ended up totally transforming the way I get dressed day to day, long term. These are things that have helped me feel better in my clothes, express myself more through style, and just know myself and my style better, which has made me happier and more fulfilled by my clothes and the way I get dressed every day. First, the thing that has maybe had the biggest impact on my day-to-day experience in my clothes, I started prioritizing comfort. When I was a young kid, I was actually super picky about the comfort of my clothing. I hated things that I thought were too tight, too stiff, too restrictive. But then, as I grew up, I kind of adjusted and let go of that. And by the time I was in the beginning of my young adult life in college, I was just not really thinking about my physical comfort at all when getting dressed. Skinny jeans, rigid high-rise mom jeans, tight short skirts, flat unsupportive shoes, irritating materials, things that were digging or itching or sliding down or riding up all day or night. I really had no discernment, it seems. And at that time, I probably wouldn't have described all those clothes as uncomfortable, even if they were digging in or itching my skin or riding up, because I was so used to them. But every day when I got home, it felt so good to take it off and change into sweats. There was this base level of just tension that I was experiencing throughout the day. This slight discomfort in what felt like the physical experience of just being a person, but was actually the discomfort and physical experience of wearing uncomfortable clothes. And I think a lot of people have this relationship with their clothes for decades. Many of us can't wait to go home and change clothes. We think of this as just how clothes are. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be this way. Because now, my clothes are so comfortable that I virtually never get home and immediately change into different ones. A lot of my clothes are equally comfortable to pajamas, which has made such a huge impact on my day-to-day experience living life because I'm just at a more comfortable baseline at all times. And yes, before with those less comfy clothes, I could kind of forget about it and just carry on with business as usual. But even when I wasn't actively occupied by it, actively thinking about it, my uncomfortable clothes were creating an unpleasant, unwanted sensory experience throughout the day, which I think just put me at a less comfortable, relaxed baseline and just made me slightly more likely to slightly more easily feel irritated or overstimulated or drained. One huge impact of prioritizing comfort and of all the things I started doing that I'm talking about in this video is that now I know exactly what I'm looking for in clothes and how to shop for my vision and preferences moving forward. And I'm so excited to have gotten some pieces from today's sponsor ThredUp that totally align with this evolution of my style. If you watch my channel, you already know that ThredUp is the biggest online secondhand shop. I shop almost entirely secondhand. Honestly, I thought about including thrifting as another thing in this video that permanently changed my style, but I realized I had too much to say and it should be a whole full video on its own. On the theme of prioritizing comfort, firstly, I got this neutral Garnet Hill skirt. The estimated retail price was $95, but the ThredUp price was $22.99. It's stretchy, it's light, it's a cotton modal blend, and it's now one of the most comfortable clothing items I own. I also got this chunky cable knit Wrangler sweater, 100% cotton. The estimated retail price was $38, but the ThredUp price was $17.99. I also got this bag. I've been looking for more multicolored bags, and the estimated retail price is $64, but the ThredUp price was $29.99. Then, for a colder fall and winter outfit, this next piece is a true showstopper, this vintage green plaid Betty Rose overcoat. This has an ILGWU union tag with a logo that's from the late 60s to early 70s. And I mean, the buttons, the color, the length, the plaid, everything about this is everything to me. The estimated retail price is $76, but the ThredUp price was $28.78. And then for another multicolored bag, this leather strip bag is so cool to me. Such a unique, interesting design while still being wearable and practical. And this one had an estimated retail price of $106, but a ThredUp price of $36.80. So if you're also looking to shop secondhand from a huge range of pieces for items that will fulfill your vision for your wardrobe moving forward. You can click my link below and use code BEEP50 to shop my ThredUp faves and receive 50% off and free shipping on your first order. Looking back, I'm not even totally sure why I started prioritizing comfort more. I think some of it definitely just comes with age. I'm not willing to tolerate as much discomfort, and also my body literally just like cannot handle certain things like uncomfortable shoes the way it once could. Tell me why I'm in my 20s with like daily back pain. Anyway, I think staying home because of COVID was another pretty big factor. Again, it wasn't like an active decision I made, but then I've realized it's pretty radically changed my style and my approach to clothing, I think, for my own betterment. So even if you think like, my clothes are fine, good enough, might be worth it to consider prioritizing comfort more in what you're wearing day to day, and even more so in your future clothing purchases. See how it feels. See if you like it better. You probably will. The next thing I started doing that I think really opened up my creativity in style is experimenting with my style in front of strangers. This could totally depend on the person, but for me, when I was really starting to get more creative with my style, I felt so awkward, like trying something new in front of people I knew really well or had known for a long time, because it was just so clearly outside of how I usually dressed, and I would just feel self-conscious that they would be like really aware of it. We've all been there, you get it. And then on the other hand, I don't always love trying something out when I'm meeting someone new that I'm expecting to have an ongoing relationship with, because like I want to give people an accurate first impression, not an experimental first impression, you know? I think for a lot of people, this is where it ends. We're like, well, I don't want to be too out there in front of my family or my really old friends or my coworkers or my new friends. So I guess I'll just dress up in my room at home. And it never gets any further than that. But something I truly love that is such a fun, freeing, no-stakes way to experiment with your style is to wear those outfits out in the world just when you're doing stuff by yourself. Not even like big, exciting, high stakes stuff, but just little mundane tasks. That's kind of the best scenario because again, there are no stakes. Especially when I was first allowing myself to play a little more with my style, sometimes my most fun outfits were worn to the grocery store, to the library, to the post office. Wearing a fun little outfit to just run by the cafe and get a little drink to go. Life-changing. This is kind of a whole other conversation, but I really think doing things by yourself is the one way to really get to know yourself beyond who you are in relation to other people, who you are beyond other people's expectations of you, and become comfortable with that. And this also applies to your style. It really allows your style to flourish without the pressure of what other people in your life are wearing, what they'll think, whether they think or expect you to be the type of person who wears something like that. It's kind of the perfect way to bring that experimentation out of the house into practice in real life. Still get the experience of performing your style for someone, expressing yourself through style to someone. But the someone is just random strangers who have absolutely no impact on your life and whose opinions you'll never know and will never matter to you. And if their opinions do matter to you, it helps to know they'll probably love it. Whenever I wear a weird little outfit, people are always like, oh my God, I love your outfit. People love to see something fun and creative and different and expressive in the world. It brings people joy. And you can start out small too, right? Like I wouldn't have been immediately comfortable going from, I don't know, jeans and a t-shirt to a full dramatic ornate fairy costume where I've painted my whole body pink, for example. Obsessed with that, but it is sort of 0 to 100 all at once. For me, it was definitely more just dipping my toe in the water, starting to experiment little by little, running errands in an outfit that felt slightly more dressed up than what I would normally wear, slightly more accessorized, slightly more whimsical, slightly more revealing. You know, these variations that might make me feel a little self-conscious or awkward in front of people who are used to my existing previous style and like try it out, presenting it as though it's your normal style to strangers who won't know either way. I think doing this really changed my style because A, it allowed me to explore different styles and figure out what I like when I want to present myself to the world, but not to one specific person's standards for me. And B, once I got used to wearing certain things around town on my own, I then felt way more comfortable wearing them in front of people in my life. I already had this confidence and ease in these styles because I had already been wearing them. I think this also weirdly makes other people more likely to accept that this is just like how you're dressing now when they can see that you feel pretty at home with it. Not feeling awkward is part of pulling something off. And because you've already established a certain level of comfort, if someone does remark on it, you'll also feel more equipped for that. Less awkward or defensive or self-conscious and more confident to just be like, what do you mean, why am I wearing a skirt? I always wear skirts. This is normal for me. You'll have that self-assurance that it's not noteworthy, that it is normal, and that this is just how I dress now. catch up. And then once you really start dressing the way you want all the time, people will get so used to it that they'll never even comment on it. So it's like trying out new things in front of strangers is really just like the catalyst, the first domino in this whole momentum to then allow you to feel confident in those styles in the rest of your life, allow you to wear them, allow everyone else to adjust to them, and then for you to like fully take on and embody this new style that is completely transformed from what it once was. All it takes is that first step of trying something out while you run to the grocery store. And on the other side is a stable, comfortable sense of freedom and ease in your own self-expression. The next thing that permanently changed my style is, I think, kind of a result of the previous two things, prioritizing comfort and letting myself experiment and dress up in front of strangers. And that is, I realized dressing up is just as easy as dressing down. This is more of a realization than a thing I started doing, I guess. It's a philosophy I took on board that changed my style, so I feel like it belongs in this video. I hadn't even realized this was such a big shift in my attitude towards style until I was watching this Hannah Louise Poston video in which she notes that getting dressed is kind of the same either way. Like, it takes the same time and attention and effort to put on a nice blouse versus a t-shirt. Thoughtful and compelling video as always from HLP. I'll link it below. I love her channel. Anyway, this concept totally resonated with me, and watching that video made me realize I had already had sort of that same realization and made that same change. I'd realized that getting dressed in a cute, fun outfit can be just as easy and wearable and comfortable as getting dressed in sweats. And that totally changed my style, because now when I just want to be comfy, I'll still often put on a cute, fun outfit. Like I said, this came partly from prioritizing comfort and trying to only buy really comfortable clothes. And then it also came partly from experimenting and developing my style and realizing that even if I want to be comfortable and practical to run errands, the barrier between comfy and practical outfits and cute, fun, stylish outfits was really more of a psychological one. The fear of doing too much. Like, I realized wanting to get dressed to blend in and wanting to get dressed to be comfortable and practical are not actually the same thing. And sometimes you can be comfortable and practical and still wear something really fun and creative and expressive. Because clothing that looks nicer or just more interesting is not necessarily or automatically less comfortable or harder to wear, and clothing that looks more casual is not necessarily more comfortable or easier to wear. Perfect example: jeans versus a flowy skirt. Jeans, much more casual, much more normative, seen as more practical. Everyone wears them all the time. Flowy skirt, a little more dressed up, a little less common, a little more style conscious, which goes hand in hand with also being seen as a little more feminine, which goes hand in hand with also being seen as automatically less practical and a little more silly and superfluous and more effortful to wear. But for me, flowy skirts are often actually more comfortable and therefore more wearable, more convenient, and lower effort to wear than jeans. Another example, hats. A lot of people think of hats as sort of extra and superfluous. You see them less. They feel like more of a fashion choice. So they seem less practical and more effortful to wear. But like most styles of hats were actually created for various practical purposes, usually either sun protection or keeping warm. So they can often actually keep you more comfortable. And the fact is, it's just as easy to put a hat on as it is to not put a hat on. Sometimes easier, because then there's less effort to put into your hair. And to get even more specific with it, it's just as easy to wear a wide-brimmed sun hat as it is to wear a baseball cap. And it's just as easy to wear a beret as it is to wear a beanie. They serve the same purpose. So there's really no reason not to go for the more elevated, less casual option if you want to. There's nothing about the casual option that makes it inherently easier, more convenient, more practical. Realizing this has impacted my style dramatically. In general, I just dress up way more. Both dress up as in dress a little more elevated, look a little dressier, but also dress up as in wear something more fun and expressive and maybe a little kooky, like playing dress up. Both of these things are just as easy as wearing a casual, mundane sweats outfit. You just have to put it on your body either way, you know? And then you're wearing it. And it really took the same amount of effort. And I like more elevated outfits and more, you know, funky, expressive outfits, both way more than the simple mundane sweats outfit. So I wear them all the time. Now that I've realized truly how easy some of these things are to wear, I'll even do it just at home. Like, I can't even tell you the number of days this summer when I spent the day mostly just working at home, didn't even leave the house. It was too hot to like do a whole, you know, extensive layered accessorized look. But instead of wearing pajamas all day or like a tank top and gym shorts, every one of those days I was wearing a loose, flowy, sleeveless cotton summer dress because they were genuinely the easiest option to me. And they made me feel nice and more awake and like I was actually dressed, you know? Grandmas were really onto something with house dresses, I tell you. Anyway, now I dress up more all the time. I love my little outfits, and I'm also simultaneously more comfortable and more at ease than I've ever been in my clothing. The next thing I started doing that absolutely transformed my style, though maybe not in the ways you would expect, is I started making fashion YouTube videos. The thing I actually spend more time working on and thinking about than basically anything else. And yet it doesn't usually actually come up in the videos until today, because while plotting this video out, I realized this might be the thing that has had the biggest overall influence on my style of them all. I feel like it would be easy to assume that making YouTube videos influenced my style and that it made me care a lot more about fashion. It made me feel like I had to dress a lot better or more creatively to be a fashion and style YouTuber. And those things may also be true to some degree, but I have always been very interested in fashion. That's why I started making videos about it. And I do think about my outfits more now, but not necessarily because I feel like I have to for my job, more just because I love to do it. The real biggest way making fashion YouTube videos has changed my style is that it has forced me to engage way more with my style. It forces me to think about it more, document it, write about it, find ways to clearly articulate my thoughts and feelings and preferences about it, actually test things out on my body with styling, look at footage of these experiments with styling. Really, every step of the process, even when the video is about fashion or style more broadly, I am always forced to consider my opinions and preferences in much greater detail than I ever did before. And that has allowed me to develop a much more detailed, nuanced, robust relationship with style and understanding of my style than I think I ever could have before. It's made me way more in tune with myself. It's given me a much more cohesive vision for my style, better ability to put pieces together in interesting ways that feel aligned with that vision, better ability to discern my taste from trends while shopping. It's even improved my wardrobe, DIY, and sewing skills by doing those things for videos. The key I want to highlight here is that it's not necessarily about this being my job. It's not about having an audience or being an influencer. It's more just that I started dedicating the time and energy and brain power to thinking about fashion in general and my style specifically. By basically giving myself an intensive weekly fashion homework project, I've engaged very robustly with the topic. I keep using the word robust here, but it just feels like the most appropriate description I can think of. Of course, the fact that this is my full-time job allows me to dedicate this kind of time and energy to the project of fashion and style. Not everyone has that kind of time and energy, but I just want to emphasize it's not the income from fashion or the audience related to fashion that has transformed my style, I think, so much as the time and energy and dedication that I give to fashion constantly in my life. And I also want to say, if you want to engage more deeply with your own style, you could totally do something similar at a much smaller scale that can have the same benefits. To continue with the homework metaphor, if I think of my videos as like big weekly research papers, you could instead give yourself like a little 5-minute worksheet assignment to explore fashion. The way I'm using a homework as a metaphor as though it's going to convince people and make people want to do it. This channel is for the dorks, okay? This channel is for the nerds. This channel is a safe space for the girlies who loved school. Anyway, the point is, instead of like making a whole YouTube video every week, maybe each week you just write a 5-minute journal entry on a different fashion related topic. Give yourself a little assignment to like write down a few trends that you love and why, a few trends that you hate and why. Get yourself to spend 10 minutes like trying to style one piece in your closet 3 different ways. I really think these mini exercises could provide the same benefits, maybe even more so than making videos for an audience, because it's truly just for you. You don't have to choose your little explorations based on what will like get views. You can just explore different facets of your style however you want at your own pace. Now that I'm on this, I'm like, wait a minute, should I make a little style development curriculum of different mini weekly assignments or challenges that people could do to explore their style more? Is that something people would be into someday? Let me know. Sounds fun. For now, I'll just say giving myself weekly style exploration assignments through making YouTube videos has deepened my relationship with and understanding of my style pretty drastically. And I think doing the same yourself could have similar effects. The last thing that has changed my style is kind of both an effect of all the other things and another contributing factor to the continual elevation of my style. I started being very picky, kind of with how I style the things I already own, but specifically with anything new I buy and add to my wardrobe. I used to be much more open-minded to like anything I thought I could make work. And in theory, that sounds nice, but just because you could make something work doesn't mean you're actually going to make it work. You're going to want to make it work repeatedly and get a lot of wear out of something. And often variations in my wardrobe that I was open to because I thought I could make it work ended up being a waste of money and closet space and mental energy because I could have made it work, but it was a lot harder and I would rarely end up wearing it, if ever. So trying to be more picky has helped me avoid waste in my closet. But I think even more than that, being super picky and trying to have very particular high standards for what I'm willing to add to my wardrobe and put on my body has allowed me to cultivate a much clearer, more defined sense of style because I'm only willing to add things to my wardrobe that really align with it. I feel like I've honed my style so much over time, which then has naturally led me to being more picky. But then I think that pickiness has led to an even more specifically curated closet, which then sort of naturally, by default, hones my style even more and allows me to express my style and meet all of my comfort and practicality needs as best as possible because all my clothes are already aligned with those things. This one really doesn't require as much to say. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I had to include it because I definitely think being picky about what I bring into my wardrobe has transformed how I use my wardrobe when styling. I'm just choosing from a much better curated selection, so it's easier and I always like the results better. And I will also say I have never regretted being too picky or too narrow in what I let into my wardrobe, but I definitely have regretted being a little too accepting of clothes that don't really meet all my standards or just aren't really my style or don't feel as comfortable or wearable as they could, and then wasting money and sometimes even more than that, wasting closet space and mental energy and just attention and effort sorting through my wardrobe that could have been avoided if all those things weren't in there in the first place. And then once I have the thing that isn't working, I feel guilty and I feel stuck with it and like I have to try even harder to make it work even though I don't really love it, and it just kind of like becomes a burden. So being more picky with what I allow in the first place definitely relieves that burden. All right, y'all, those are 5 of the biggest things I started doing that permanently changed my style. I mean, nothing is permanent, but things that changed my everyday approach to style quite drastically and consistently in the long term. I would love to hear if you do any of these things or if you would try them out if you don't do them already. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget you can check out ThredUp and get 50% off your first order plus free shipping through my link below. And if you do leave a comment, watch another video, and subscribe, I heard the next time you go run errands in a whole little outfit, you'll get a bunch of compliments on it.